Hello and welcome to Switch Scheme. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at my personal top 10 Switch games of 2023. This year was absolutely packed with games, and as we reach the end of the Switch's lifespan, we're still lucky enough to receive an ever-growing lineup to the Switch's library. Now keep in mind, this is my personal list, and yes, this is going to be in order. And don't forget to watch for the giveaway code word to use in the comments. If you enjoy the content, drop a like and sub to the channel. And let's get into my top 10 games of 2023 for the Nintendo Switch. I regularly play Hearthstone and Slay the Spire. I also collect and play mini IRL card games such as Marvel Champions, Lord of the Rings the LCG, and Arkham Horror the card game. So as you can see, I love card games, and Wild Frost has been an absolutely pleasant surprise. Wild Frost is a roguelike tactical card game with an extremely cute art style that reminded me of Adventure Time. The gameplay sees you with a deck of cards playing creatures on two planes, with the front creature on each side duking it out until one goes down. This continues until one side is defeated. It's a pretty simple concept, but it translates very well to a roguelite. If your creature goes down, it'll be injured in the next game, making your decisions really matter. Between each battle, you'll work on a city hub, creating buildings and buying or unlocking new cards and entire factions to play with. It's truly a charming experience. It's not the most complicated game, and if you want something more complex in this genre, Slay the Spire might scratch that itch, but if you love Slay the Spire and are looking for something different, definitely try out Wild Frost. Fire Emblem Three Houses is one of, if not my favorite Fire Emblem games. I grew up with the Game Boy Advance releases leading all the way up to where we are today and have never missed a single game in the lineup. I love the tactical gameplay. Another game series I really love is Persona for its relationship building and how it empowers you in your battles. So when you mash the two concepts together, naturally I'm gonna instantly fall head over heels with the result. That was Three Houses. Three Houses would have been in my top 3 of the year when it was released had I been making videos at the time, but what keeps Engaged down here at number 9 is honestly the removal of those relationship building aspects. The game itself is great. It pushes the series back to its deeper tactical combat that some missed in Three Houses and focuses heavily on the combat depth. It brought back the weapon triangle system, which I really enjoyed since it was such a staple to the series. The game's length at about 40 hours feels just right, and the storyline, although not groundbreaking, was enough to keep me, well, engaged for the full runtime. I can only hope that the next game in the series finds that true balance between Three Houses' relationship building and school concepts with Engage's focus on combat and fleshing out the tactical gameplay. Then we could possibly have the best Fire Emblem ever made. The Octopath Traveler games are some of the best JRPGs contents we've received in a while. I'm not saying that it's the best ever, but the mixture of 2D HD graphics, the extremely good music, and strong but basic combat keep it near the top for me. Octopath Traveler 2 did exactly what a sequel should. It took the concepts from the original game, the look, the sound, the story, and built upon it. The first game's story wasn't the best, and the way it hooked in all 8 characters together kind of felt disjointed and imperfect, but the second game did a better job at this, allowing for smaller storylines to build upon the larger story to flush out those missing pieces that the first game suffered from. I don't think they've gotten the system down 100%, and there's definitely room to grow the series going forward, but it's a solid game as is, and easily one of my top 10 games of the year. As you probably have gathered from my channel, I really like RPGs, and Sea of Stars hit the gaming verse like a brick through a window. Getting honored at the Video Game Awards with a win in Best Independent Game of the Year, that was thoroughly deserved. The game is just so rich in story, and the visuals match its story in such a great way. This is one of the few games where I'm actually glad they use these retro graphics rather than some generic, realistic fantasy look. The story of the two children, one of the moon and one of the sun, needing to combine their powers to create magic that can cleanse the monsters from the land is really cool, and the story leads to some fun places of discovery and adventure. I got about 15 hours into the reportedly 25 to 30 hour long campaign on my digital copy before I just buckled down and ordered an import from Japan with English translation. That way I could have a physical copy on my shelf forever. That's an expensive endeavor that I reserve only for my favorite games, and Sea of Stars was worthy of that investment. I played Etrian Odyssey on my DS back in the day, and I was so confused I had no idea what I was doing. I was brand new to first-person dungeon crawls, and if you watch my favorite first-person dungeon crawls of all time video, you'll know that Etrian Odyssey collections hit the list. As I matured in my gaming taste, I found a love for this genre, and when the Origins collection was announced, I pre-ordered it from PlayAsia the day it was available. I generally try to keep my top of the year from having a lot of re-releases, but I couldn't help it with this one. I would be lying if I didn't add Etrian Odyssey collections due to the hours upon hours that I put into it. If you like first-person dungeon crawls at all, this collection will give you tons upon tons of top-notch gameplay to enjoy. Back in my childhood, I had Super Nintendo, and of course I was one of the many kids who grabbed Super Mario RPG off the Blockbuster shelf. It was like no other Mario game we had played up to that point, and it was so confusing for me. I was too young to fully understand and appreciate what it was attempting to do with the series. Here we are 20 plus years later, every Switch creator celebrated with the utmost excitement. Players eagerly waited every nugget of information that they would leave us, just with a little bit more to chew on so that we knew where this remake was coming from and when it would finally hit our shelves. It was gobbled up by the masses and quickly became one of the best-selling Mario RPG titles among all the Paper Mario variants and the original. I know I just said that re-releases are generally kept off my top of the year list, but Metroid Prime Remastered did just enough for me to consider it more of a remake than a simple up-res to fit our screen. It brought a nice fidelity to the graphics, added more details to the environments, and added a better control scheme, allowing it to feel perfect for the system. It was an absolute blast, and I think I speak for all Metroid Prime fans, it was exactly what we needed. It feels almost as if the series is on ice with the extremely long wait for the next title, and with the remastered release of the original, it's almost as if Nintendo is offering a small taste of the ultimate dish that Prime 4 will become. Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure was such a pleasant surprise. It's a 50-plus hour-long drama borderlining soap opera in the best of ways. It follows up the story of Trails from Zero taking place a few months after the previous title, and of course, everyone just can't get along and chaos ensues. The characters are endearing, the storyline, although a bit convoluted, is deep enough to swim in, and the character models just fill me with glee. I know that sounds stupid, but hear me out. My hope, dream, and ultimate wish is for Golden Sun Remake to become a reality, and the character models in Trails to Azure remind me of Golden Sun sprites, and I just can't help but love them. The music, as with most Falcom games, is beyond what it needs to be, and the story, like I said, is deep and dramatic. And beyond all that, they did some tweaks to the combat from Trails to Zero, which really helped it feel a lot better in your hands. This was easily one of my favorite games of the year. Reverie, which also released this year, was good, don't get me wrong, but something about Azure makes me want to return to it over and over. The Altair series is just way too big in my opinion, but to some, that's what makes them so good. You can latch onto a specific protagonist and play out their specific story while enjoying familiar mechanics that's found in the entire series. Ryza was that for me. I started with the first game and instantly fell in love with the main character and her party of friends. The third game continues the fantastic Ryza series reputation and honestly brings this trilogy together so well that in my opinion it's one of the best trilogies ever made in the RPG space. The world of Ryza 3 is just so immersive, and honestly, after playing Sophie 2 and the Sophie Fearless Lighty collection, Ryza 3's world is just so much more enjoyable to play in. The combat and synthesis system are perfectly on point, and the story just hits deep and is surprisingly emotional when necessary. I was shocked that the third game in the series hit right, as with the law of diminishing returns, most third games in a series may feel a bit samey or just not as engaging, but Altair Ryza 3 broke the mold and ended up becoming my second most played and favorite game of 2023. One of the main reasons we play video games is to enter into worlds that engage us and help us forget the stuff that we deal with in real life. One way that games do this is to make a rich, deep story that sucks you into its core. Another way is to just make you feel like a kid again and completely forget all of your adult responsibilities. I know for many that this will be on their list, but not necessarily at the top like it is for me. But my favorite game as a child was Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. I played it all the time, and it was basically the game that helped me grow as a gamer. I could play the main game and follow the usual path, but over time I learned more and more and got better and better. I could now unlock Star World and experience the crazy levels in the Rainbow Road, and Mario Wonder kind of gave me that same familiar feeling, following one path only to realize that I could open up another, finding secrets and seeing all new wonder effects that the seeds would put you through. I rarely play Mario games anymore. The last Mario game I played was Odyssey, and even though I liked it, it just didn't stick with me, so much so that I haven't played it since release. Mario Wonder has become one of those games that whenever I stop and look at my shelf and think to myself, what game do I want to play today or review, I then see Mario Wonder and ponder how much time would I really lose if I just grab it and clear a couple levels real quick. It's been an absolute perfect addition to Mario for me and brought me back to Mario once more. For me, Mario Wonder was my favorite game of 2023. Well, there you go, my top 10 games of 2023 for the Nintendo Switch. Now I know my list is going to vary greatly from others. I know most people will have Tears of the Kingdom either at their number 1 or at least in their top 10. But honestly, Legend of Zelda has never really been my cup of tea. I don't deny that Tears of the Kingdom is a fantastic game. I really enjoyed it. It's just not the top of my list. Same with Pikmin 4, which I heard was also really good, but I have not yet had the chance to play it because I don't have a copy of it, so therefore I can't add it to my list, but I'm pretty sure it would be on this list based on all the reviews I've already heard. Another game a lot of you are going to be wondering why isn't here is Advance Wars Reboot. I have another top 10 of my biggest disappointments, and I'll give you a hint, this game is on it, and I'll explain why in that video. Beyond the Switch, I would also like to add that I am an avid PC gamer. With that, I'd also like to give you a couple of my favorite games of the year that were not on the Switch. Resident Evil 4 The Remake was one of my most played games of the year. It hit so perfectly, making me eagerly wait for the next remake in the series. But if I'm to be honest with you and everyone else, my favorite game of 2023 was Baldur's Gate 3. I bought into the early access several years ago and played it every now and then when a new release would come out, but I tried to avoid playing it too much, that way I didn't spoil anything when the full game was released. When the game finally came out, in full, I played through it the entire way, all in one go. No other game during that 2-week period pulled me away from Baldur's Gate 3, and by the time I was done, I had stories to tell with my friends who were also playing it, and clocked in around 120 hours for that single playthrough. I quickly rolled a new character and started again. That's how much I love Baldur's Gate 3. This year has been an absolute win for gamers. Hardcore MMO fans got Season of Discovery, RPG fans got Baldur's Gate 3, horror fans got Resident Evil 4 Remake and Alan Wake 2, and Switch diehards got things like Tears of the Kingdom and Metroid Prime Remastered. It's been such a great year in all. I hope that you had a great year and would love to know what games are in your top 10, regardless if they're for the Switch or not. Thanks again for watching, drop a like and sub, and as always, have a great day.